My friends, you come to me asking for light. You ask for clarity. You wish to ascend, to rise above your troubles, to bask in the eternal sunshine of a spirit that is free from conflict. You want to be good. You want to be whole. And you look upwards, straining your neck toward the heavens, hoping that if you reach high enough, you will leave the heavy, muddy earth behind you. But I must tell you something that the modern world has forgotten, something that the ancients knew in their bones, but which we, in our sanitized lives, have repressed. I must tell you about the tree. Imagine a great tree, an oak or a pine, standing alone on a high ridge. Its branches spread wide, touching the very sky, drinking in the sun, a magnificent display of life and greenery. It is a thing of beauty. But tell me, what allows it to stand against the wind? What feeds that canopy? What anchors it when the storms come? It is the roots. And where do the roots go? They do not go up. They go down. They plunge into the dark, into the cold, damp earth. They twist through the rocks. They feed upon the decaying matter of the past. They reach into the very bowels of the underworld. The higher the tree wishes to grow, the deeper its roots must sink. This is the terrible law of the psyche. No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. You are shocked by this word, hell. You think of it as a place of fire and brimstone, a theological punishment. But I am speaking as a doctor of the soul, not a priest. By hell, I mean the unconscious. I mean the shadow. I mean all those things within you that you have cast aside, locked away, and refused to acknowledge because they are too painful, too ugly, or too terrifying to face. We live in a time that is obsessed with the persona. The persona is the mask we wear to show the world that we are civilized, that we are polite, that we are moral. It is the I you present to your neighbor, to your employer, even to your spouse. It is bright, it is shiny, and it is terribly thin. Underneath that mask lies the shadow. The shadow is everything you do not wish to be. It is your aggression, your jealousy, your greed, your lust, your cowardice. It is the primitive, animal part of your nature that civilization has told you to cut off. And so you try to cut it off. You repress it. You push it down into the basement of your mind and you lock the door. You think, if I just don't look at it, it will go away. If I just focus on the light, the darkness will vanish. But the psyche is nature, and nature cannot be fooled. What you resist persists. What you deny grows in the dark. By refusing to look at your roots, you do not destroy them, you merely starve them of consciousness. And a starving root does not die, it becomes voracious. It begins to shake the foundations of your house. This is why we see so many people today who are neurotic, who are anxious, who feel a sense of hollowness despite their material success. They are trying to live as one-dimensional beings. They are trying to be trees without roots. They want the view from the summit without the climb through the valley. They imagine that enlightenment is a process of becoming perfect, of eliminating all faults, all anger, all sadness, until they are beings of pure white light. But I tell you, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The latter procedure, however, is disagreeable and therefore not popular. It is disagreeable because it is humiliating. It requires you to admit that you are not the master of your own house. It requires you to look in the mirror and see not just the hero, but the villain. You must see that within you lies the capacity for every crime, every horror, every act of selfishness that you despise in others. You see, the world is not divided into good people and bad people. The line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. It cuts through your heart. And until you can walk down into that cellar, until you can dig your hands into the mud of your own being and say, "This, too, is me," you can never be whole. You will remain a fragment. You will be a paper saint, blown away by the first gust of reality. Why are we so afraid of this descent? Why do we fear our own depths? It is because we fear chaos. The conscious mind is like a small island in the vast ocean of the unconscious. We have built our little cities on this island, our logic, our plans, our schedules. We feel safe there. The unconscious is the ocean, deep, dark, teeming with monsters and treasures, uncontrollable and immense. We fear that if we dip a toe in, we will be swept away. But the danger comes not from entering the water, but from ignoring the tide. When you ignore the shadow, it does not sit quietly. It projects itself onto the world. Have you ever felt an irrational hatred for someone you hardly know? Have you ever been irritated beyond measure by a flaw in your partner that, in truth, is a flaw you possess yourself? This is the shadow at work. It takes the darkness you cannot accept in yourself and paints it onto the faces of others. You fight your enemies out there because you cannot fight the enemy in here. You wage wars, you judge your neighbors, you criticize the world, all to avoid the terrifying silence of introspection. But the tree that refuses its roots will eventually fall. It becomes top-heavy. Its branches are too vast for its shallow grip on the earth. A life lived only in the light is a life of brittleness. It lacks substance. It lacks sap. Real character, real spiritual substance, is found not in perfection but in integration. It is found in the ability to hold the tension of opposites. To be able to say, I am a man who loves and I am a man who hates. I am kind and I am cruel. I am a creature of the stars and I am a beast of the dirt. When you can hold these two opposites together without tearing yourself apart, something miraculous happens. The friction between the high and the low, the light and the dark, produces a third thing, a new birth of consciousness. This is what the alchemists called the lapis philosophorum, the philosopher's stone. It is the gold hidden in the dung. But to find the gold, you must be willing to touch the dung. You must be willing to go down. Let us walk further into this dark wood. You see, the tragedy of our age is that we have confused safety with life. We have confused being nice with being holy. We have created a civilization that resembles a manicured hospital lawn, clean, trimmed, predictable, and utterly sterile. We spray pesticides on our weeds. We drug our anxieties. We distract ourselves from our boredom. We do everything in our power to banish the chaotic, the dirty, the wild. But tell me, can you grow food on a sterile marble floor? Can you find water in a desert of pure light? No, life requires the muck. Life requires the rot. The seed does not sprout in the clear air. It sprouts in the dirt, amidst the decaying remains of what came before. This is the great biological truth that is also a great psychological truth. We are terrified of our own suffering. When pain arrives, when depression knocks at the door, or a sudden burst of rage, or a terrible longing that threatens to wreck our stable little lives, we treat it as a mistake. We think, something has gone wrong, I must fix it. I must get back to normal. But what if normal is the disease? What if your suffering is not a mistake, but a message? The roots must go down, and often the digging of these roots feels like a collapse. You feel as though the ground is giving way beneath your feet. You may call it a breakdown. I call it a breakthrough. For when the floor of your ego collapses, you fall into the reality of the soul. Consider the man who has spent his whole life being good. He has followed all the rules. He has been a dutiful son, a faithful husband, a diligent worker. He has suppressed every impulse that did not fit the picture of a good citizen. He smiles when he wants to scream. He agrees when he wants to fight. He has cut off his roots to fit into a pot. And then, one day, perhaps in the middle of his life, the pot breaks. He falls into a depression. Or perhaps he runs away with a woman half his age. Or he quits his job to paint terrible pictures. The world looks at him and says, "What a tragedy, he has lost his mind." But I say, no, he has found his roots. He is finally encountering the parts of himself that he tried to murder. And because he starved them for 40 years, they are coming back as hungry wolves. You see, the energy you spend repressing your shadow does not disappear. It accumulates. It gathers tension. It is like holding a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while if you are strong, but eventually your arms will tire. And when you slip, that ball will not just float to the surface gently. It will rocket into the air, splashing everyone in the vicinity. This is why we see such fanaticism in the world. The man who is most obsessed with purity is often the man fighting the fiercest battle against his own impurity. The man who screams loudest against the sinner is usually the man who is secretly fascinated by the sin. He projects his own shadow onto the scapegoat so that he can destroy it out there instead of facing it in here. But you, my friend, you who seek the path of individuation, you must not do this. You must withdraw your projections. You must take back your shadow. This is a painful process. It burns. It burns away your vanity. It burns away your sense of moral superiority. You cannot look down on the criminal when you realize that the seed of his crime lies in your own heart. You cannot judge the fool when you see your own foolishness staring back at you from the abyss. But in this burning, there is a great liberation. For when you stop wasting your energy trying to hide your darkness, that energy becomes available to you. The shadow is not just a trash can of vices, it is also the reservoir of your vitality. It is where your passion lives. It is where your creativity lives. It is where your instincts, your drive, your raw power resides. A tree without roots is fragile. A wind can knock it over. But a tree with deep roots, roots that have wrapped themselves around the cold rocks of the underworld, that tree can withstand the hurricane. Think of the people you admire most deeply. Are they the ones who have never suffered? Are they the ones who are perpetually smiling, who have never made a mistake, who have never known despair? No, they are the ones who have been broken and have put themselves back together. They are the ones who have descended into the pit and returned with something in their hands. There is a depth to them, a gravity. You feel safe with them, not because they are nice, but because they are real. They have integrated the monster within, and so they do not need to fear the monsters without. This is the goal, not perfection but wholeness. To be whole means to include everything. It means to accept the contradiction of being human. You are a biological paradox. You are an animal with the mind of a god. You are a beast that dreams of eternity. To try to be only the god and deny the beast is to become a ghost. To try to be only the beast and deny the god is to become a monster. You must be both. You must stand at the intersection of heaven and hell, and you must hold the tension. And let me tell you, this tension is the fire that creates the soul. We want life to be easy. We want the path to be straight, but the path of the soul is a spiral. We circle the same mountains again and again, but each time at a different level, and the ascent is always accompanied by a descent. No tree can grow to heaven. Do you understand now why I say this? The heaven I speak of is not a place you go after you die. It is a state of consciousness available to you now. It is the wide, expansive view of the self that sees all things as they are. But you cannot reach that height if you are tethered by the denial of your depths. If you try to ascend without the roots, you become ungrounded. You fly off into spiritual fantasies. You become inflated. You think you are a messiah, a prophet, a being of pure light. This is a dangerous psychosis. It is the Icarus complex, flying too close to the sun with wings made of wax. The heat of reality will melt your wings, and you will crash into the sea. But if you are rooted, if you know your own darkness, if you respect your own capacity for evil, if you are humble before the terrible forces of the unconscious, then you can grow safely. You can reach for the stars because your feet are planted firmly in the mud. This implies a terrible responsibility. It means you can no longer blame your parents, your society, or your bad luck for your condition. You must accept that the chaos is yours. But is this not also a form of dignity? To say, this is my shadow, I carry it, I'm responsible for it. In this acceptance, the war inside you begins to cease. You stop fighting yourself. You begin to negotiate. You say to your anger, I see you, you are part of me, what are you trying to protect? You say to your fear, I hear you, you are trying to keep me safe, walk with me but do not lead me. You become the mediator of your own psychic civil war. And slowly, slowly, the jagged edges of your personality begin to smooth out. Not because you have cut them off, but because you have worn them down through the hard work of living. But let us be very clear. This negotiation with the shadow is not a dinner party. It is a confrontation, and it is the most courageous act a human being can undertake. Many of you are living lives that are too small for your spirits. You are cramped. You feel a vague sense of suffocation, as if you are wearing a suit of clothes that was tailored for a child. This is because you have exiled half of your soul to the underworld. You have tried to be good at the expense of being whole. And what happens to the energy you have exiled? It does not sit idly. It turns against you. I have seen countless patients in the second half of life, successful men, virtuous women, who are plagued by a meaningless boredom. They have achieved everything society told them to achieve. They have climbed the ladder, but they arrive at the top and find that the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. They have the view, but they have lost the ground. This is because the roots have been neglected, and a life without roots is a life without instinct. It is a life of dry intellectualism, of empty rituals. It is a life where the blood has stopped flowing. You see, hell is not merely a repository of evil. This is a great misunderstanding. Down there, in the mud of the unconscious, lies not only your capacity for destruction, but also your capacity for creation. The roots are where the sap comes from. Your aggression, when integrated, becomes your drive to change the world. Your lust, when understood, becomes your passion for life, your eros, your connection to the divine creative force. Your grief becomes the depth of your compassion. If you cut off the devil, you also cut off the angel. If you pave over the swamp, you destroy the ecosystem that sustains the forest. We see this tragedy played out in our relationships. How many marriages fail because one partner refuses to accept the shadow of the other? We fall in love with a projection. We see a god or a goddess. We say, "You are my everything. You are perfect." We place them on a pedestal so high that they cannot move without falling. And then, inevitably, they do something human. They are selfish. They are weak. They have a bad mood. And we are crushed. We say, "You have betrayed me. You are not who I thought you were." But they never were who you thought they were. They were always a mixture of light and dark, just like you. But you wanted a tree with no roots. You wanted a flower that floats in the air. To love truly is to love the whole person, the roots and the branches. It is to say, "I see your darkness and I am not afraid of it because I know my own." This creates an intimacy that the perfect marriage can never know. It is an intimacy of earth, not of clouds. It is solid. It can weather the storm. But to reach this state, you must endure the tension. There is a moment in the process of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, where you feel completely lost. The old maps no longer work. The religion of your childhood, the morality of your society, the rules you learned in school, they all seem hollow. You are suspended between the world you knew and the world that is waiting to be born. This is the dark night of the soul. It is the descent into the belly of the whale. In this darkness, you will meet your demons. You will remember the dreams you murdered. You will feel the pain of the unlived life. And you will want to run back to the surface, back to the light, back to the easy, shallow existence. But I beg you, stay in the darkness. Watch, listen. For it is in this very darkness that the seed of the new self is germinating. You must remember that the unconscious is not just a trash can for your repressed thoughts. It is also the source of ancient wisdom. It contains the history of mankind. It speaks in dreams, in symbols, in myths. It is trying to guide you toward wholeness. If you listen to it, if you respect it, if you water the roots, the tree will begin to grow again. But this time, it will not just grow upward in a fragile, desperate attempt to escape the earth. It will broaden. It will thicken. Its bark will become tough. A man who has integrated his shadow is not nice. He is something far better. He is dangerous, but he has his sword sheathed. He has teeth, but he chooses not to bite. He is capable of mayhem, and because he is capable of it, his peace is a real peace. It is a chosen peace. The man who is harmless because he is incapable of harm is not virtuous. He is merely castrated. But the man who is capable of great destruction and chooses to nurture, that is a man of substance. That is a tree that touches heaven. We are afraid that if we acknowledge the monster, we will become the monster. But the opposite is true. It is the unrecognized monster that possesses you. Look at the history of the 20th century. Look at the wars, the genocides, the madness of crowds. Do you think these were committed by evil people? No, they were committed by ordinary people who had no idea of their own capacity for evil. They were people who projected their shadow onto the enemy and felt righteous in destroying them. They were trees that tried to grow to heaven by burning down the forest. If we are to survive as a species, if we are to survive as individuals, we must take back this projection. We must own our hell. We must understand that the line between the saint and the psychopath is terrifyingly thin, and it runs through the center of our own psyche. When you realize this, you stop judging, you stop preaching, you become humble, and in that humility, you find a connection to humanity that is profound and unbreakable. You realize that you are not better than the beggar, the thief, or the murderer. You are simply lucky, or perhaps more conscious. And this consciousness is the gold we are seeking. But let us not pretend this is a joyful romp. It is a crucifixion. To hold the opposites, to be both the sinner and the saint, the beast and the God, is to be torn apart. It is a suffering. But it is a meaningful suffering, and man can endure any amount of suffering, provided it has meaning. The suffering of the neurotic is useless. It is a hamster wheel of evasion. But the suffering of the person who is growing his roots, that is the suffering of birth. It is the labor pain of the soul entering the world. So do not pray for an easy life. Do not pray for a life without conflict. A life without conflict is a life without consciousness. Pray instead for the strength to stand in the fire without burning up. Pray for the courage to look into the abyss until the abyss looks back with the eyes of wisdom. You are not meant to be a perfect picture on a wall. You are meant to be a living, breathing, growing thing, a bridge between the animal and the divine. And bridges are walked upon. Bridges carry weight. So we return to the tree. Look at it one last time in your mind's eye. See how the wind whips through its branches. The higher it grows, the more it is exposed to the elements. The lightning seeks the highest point. The gale seeks the tallest canopy. To be tall is to be vulnerable. To be great is to be exposed. If you desire a life of safety, stay small. Stay a shrub. Keep your roots shallow, just beneath the surface where the grass grows. You will be safe there, perhaps. You will be unnoticed by the storm. But you will also never see the horizon. You will never know what it means to touch the sky. But if you are listening to me now, I suspect you are not content to be a shrub. I suspect there is a seed within you that demands to become an oak. And this seed, this self, cares nothing for your safety. It cares only for your completion. The self is the center of the psyche, and it is also the circumference. It is the architect of your life, and it will drive you into the fires of hell if that is what is required to forge you into gold. You may ask me, Dr. Jung, is there no peace? Is life nothing but this endless tension between light and dark? I tell you, there is a peace, but it is not the peace of the graveyard. It is not the peace of the numb. It is the peace of the Mandala. In my own work, I found that when the conflict between the opposites became too great to bear, the psyche would spontaneously produce symbols of wholeness, circles, squares, patterns of perfect balance. The Mandala, it is a map of the center. When you have roots in hell and branches in heaven, you become the trunk. You become the vertical axis of the world. You become the place where the opposites meet and are reconciled. In this center, there is stillness. It is the stillness of the spinning wheel's hub. The rim is moving at great speed. There is joy, there is sorrow, there is birth, there is death, but the center is unmoved. To find this center, you must stop running away from yourself. You must stop wishing you were someone else, somewhere else, sometime else. You must be exactly who you are, exactly where you are, with all your scars and all your sins. You must say to the universe, here I am. I am this mixture of dust and stardust. I am this contradiction. And in that moment of total acceptance, the alchemical transformation occurs. The lead turns to gold. The hell becomes the foundation of heaven. You realize that your hell, your trauma, your grief, your darkest impulses was not a curse. It was the raw material. It was the manure that fertilized the soil of your soul. Without it, you would have remained a child. With it, you have become an individual. This is the meaning of your life. It is not to be wealthy. It is not to be famous. It is not even to be happy in the trivial sense of the word. The meaning of your life is to become conscious of the infinite. It is to be a vessel where the universe can see its own darkness and its own light and love them both. My friends, the age we are living in is a dangerous one. We have split the atom, but we have not united the psyche. We have technological gods and Stone Age instincts. If we do not do this work, if we do not face our own shadows individually, We will be forced to face them collectively. And the collective shadow of humanity is a terrifying thing. It creates wars that consume the world. So your inner work is not selfish. It is the greatest service you can render to mankind. Every time you withdraw a projection, every time you acknowledge your own capacity for evil, every time you choose understanding over judgment, you take a little bit of weight off the shoulders of the world. You clear a little patch of the jungle. You become a lantern in the dark, and God knows we need lanterns. So do not fear the descent. Do not fear the night. The night is the mother of the day. The root is the mother of the fruit. Go home to yourself. Look in the mirror. Look deep. Do not blink. See the beast, see the God, and know that they are one. Grow deep, my friends. Grow deep. For that is the only way to reach the stars.